This is the Friendly DM back with another AD&D Toolkit tutorial. This is going to be on using Toolkit from the player's perspective. Now, I had done a video like this. It actually was the most viewed video I have on the channel, so I'm assuming that means it's helpful. I'm doing a new one for two reasons. One, the audio quality was pretty bad back then, and I do have a new mic. I'm hoping that it's better this time than it was the last time. But more importantly, Toolkit has advanced a lot since that last video. I think it was like 7 or 8 months ago. So we're going to be doing an update. And I think I'll be archiving a lot of the older videos because there's been a few I've redone now for those two reasons. Content has changed and improved, and so has the audio quality. So those archived, I think we're just going to have them in a separate folder. They'll stay on the channel in case you ever want to, for whatever reason, check them out. But we'll get them out of the main group so that they're not confusing people new to the channel. In any event, let's get started. So characters. That's essentially what players are going to be using AD&D Toolkit for, right? Characters. So most of your navigation for Toolkit is up in this top right corner. You're going to be clicking on characters as a player. And then this will be your stable of characters. And very quickly, I'm going to point this out first. This little blue diamond you see. There's a few features within Toolkit that have this little blue diamond there, and that indicates it's a supporter feature, as you can see by the tooltip there. If you hover over support, and click on donate, these are donation tiers to support the Toolkit project. It takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and expenses to keep Toolkit running. I want to try to keep it free to use for everyone, and so we do ask for those who are able to please donate to the project. But otherwise, if you're just not able to, times are tough, whatever reason, you can use 95, I'd say, % of it for free. And usually these supporter features just increase the amounts. You're not really locked out of features, you just can't use them as often. If you're not a supporter, and for instance of that, and why I'm pointing it out here is, by default, you can create up to 4 characters in your stable, and if you do support the project, you can create more characters. So that's what I mean by increase your access to features. But in any event, these are characters I've created in the past in my stable. If you want to create a new one because you're new to Toolkit, which you probably are if you're watching this, you're going to click Create Character. This is the character creator. There's a lot of features here. I have done a video on character creation, so I'm just going to zoom through this quickly so that we can get on to the character sheet. But there's features here, system being the big one, and you will want to understand this by watching that video on character creation. Choosing a system here only impacts the creation process. Once your character is created, it defaults to first edition. And then it will only change if you join a campaign that is playing 2nd edition or Unearthed Arcana. So important to note that if you check this box, Toolkit enforces the rules, the core rules for each of these systems. So for instance, in 1st edition, a druid can only be a human or half-elf. Toolkit will not allow you to create a character of any other race if you choose druid. Unless you check this box, ignore limitations, then you can make any combinations you want if you want to do some wonky kind of campaign. Lastly, I'm going to point out, or second to lastly, these scores you can use if you wish. They are 4d6 minus the lowest. If you have your own protocol, plug in new numbers. There's a roll random NPC feature here. If you click this, it will roll a new random NPC for you. Oh, the server's going slowly here. Sorry about that. But once you do that, it's first going to select a class. And the reason you'll see fighter came up. Gary Gygax, 1st edition, wanted the predominant class to be fighters, and then they go down from there, where, for instance, like monk and paladins are going to be the least popular class. Maybe not popular, but they're going to occur the least often. Very few monks. I think 1% of the population, D&D population, he had said would be a monk, 2% or so would be paladins. The vast majority of classes would be fighters, which makes sense. You're going to have a lot of fighters in parties. Anybody can pick up a weapon and train to be a fighter. Not everybody can be a monk or a paladin, right? A lot more requirements there. So when you roll that random NPC, it chooses class first. Then after that, it'll choose race and, more importantly, abilities to fit that class. So if you did happen to roll the 2% chance of getting a paladin, your abilities are going to be adjusted to fit a paladin. You're going to get a 17 charisma, and then you're going to get the strength and wisdom scores that fit paladin and so forth. So these rolls are not random enough for a PC. Don't use these numbers. If you roll that random NPC deal here, don't use that for player characters. And then the last thing is just read this at the bottom too. It's going to tell you a few important things you need to know, how character age and your chosen race and so forth can change your abilities after creation. So if you have a 12 wisdom here and you create your character, that wisdom might change a little bit based upon your class, race, or age. So again, watch that character creation video if you want to know how that works. But once you create your character, it's going to be in your stable of characters, which is going to bring us back here. And then once you have your stable of characters, you'll see some of them are kind of grayed out. Others are not. They're kind of bright. And the reason for that is the brighter ones are active characters. The grayed out ones are deactivated. And what that means is, I'll show you now, there's 3 links for each of your characters. If you click on campaign, you're going to get a token from your DM. And you plug the token in here twice, click submit. That's how your character joins a campaign. Or you can leave the campaign. Once you've joined a campaign, your character stays there until either you quit or your DM kicks you out. But you're not always going to be playing each session. And so characters can be activated or deactivated per session, but still remain within the campaign so that they don't have to join again. And so this deactivate, activate button, that's just a toggle. And you'll see if I deactivate War Baron, he's going to go gray there. And if I activate him, he brightens up again. And the DM can also toggle this from their end. So if you play a session and you end it as an active character and the next session plays and you're not there, the DM can deactivate that character so that none of the things that happen, none of the progressions apply to War Baron because he wasn't present. So that's what campaign and deactivate are for. And of course, delete if you wish to delete your character. And you'll see like through all these characters, if I try and delete one, it's going to ask me for the confirmation. Just in case you make a mistake, it's going to ask you, do you really want to delete that character? And you're done. Otherwise, the only other thing you're ever really going to do from this page, you'll see there's nothing else on here, is click on the box or the name. Pretty much anywhere in Toolkit you see the character name in this red font, it's a link that's going to bring you to your character sheet. So just real quickly, if I was to go on to another page and I have my character link in that font and color, it links me back to the character sheet. Little shortcut to know. All right, so once you're here, you're going to spend, as a player, the vast majority of your time in this character sheet. You'll see there's a few other features down at the bottom besides the traditional character sheet. So a lot to get through. If you need to change your name, you can click Edit, change the name. Click it again, it's gone. Your alignment, you can change by clicking the red link there. Gives you the option to change it. Those are new features we hadn't had for a while, certainly not in the past video. Public profile. If you're a supporter, hence that little blue diamond, you can click on your public profile. And then from here, this is a profile. It's public, meaning you can share it with the public. Whether they're a Toolkit member or not, you can just click this link here, or just click the copy link button to copy it and paste that link anywhere and anybody can view it. Only if you're a supporter will they view anything, otherwise they'll get a link that says you don't have access to this. And only if the publication status is listed as public. If you have it private, then only you, the character owner, can see this page. Or if it's campaign, you and anyone within your campaign that you're currently active in can also view this. And you'll see it's got a lot of the basic information from the character sheet grayed out, meaning it cannot be updated, only viewed from this page. And then some flex items like these character equipment slots, magic items your character holds on to and blows up the profile image for you. And a couple of other things. You have private notes down here that anything you type in here only you, the character owner, will be able to see, and the tooltip tells you that. These tooltips are all over the website to help you navigate. Personal history is anything that you want anybody to be able to read that you give this link to. And finally, you can click on Post to Discord. This will go to the AD&D Toolkit Discord, where we have upwards of 1,200 people now. But if you just want to flex your character sheet and you're a supporter, you can do that by clicking that button. This will bring you back to your character sheet. And incidentally, these little stars that you see, those are indicators that you are a supporter, and anybody who views your profile will know that. And there's 4 tiers of supporters with 4 different colors. This is for the gold dragon. If you're a copper dragon supporter, you'll have a little copper star there. So click on our name, get back to our character sheet. All right, from the character sheet, a few vanity items. You can click on your character profile pick. A lot of people don't like the starting pick. It's only selected based upon your class. Doesn't account for race or your vision of your character. So if you click on that, you'll see you have a library of images to choose from. And if you're a supporter, you'll get a lot more images than if you're not. So you'll see here the exclusive library. That's if you're a supporter. And because I'm a supporter, there's no images down here. They are all up here in available images for me to choose from. If I was not a supporter, there would only be a few up here, and the rest would be down there to show you what you're missing out on. Another vanity item, yes. These equipment slots, again, available to supporters. So you'll see, for instance, I have this headpiece selected for this character. If I click on it, I can choose all these different helmets, headgear. It doesn't have to be helmets only, crowns and so forth, but you'll see alternative images are a supporter item. So again, it's mostly these vanity visual items that are for supporters. They like them, but not crucial to using Toolkit and playing with it. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes here. There is also this print button. If you wish to print your character sheet, you can. A lot of information to try and fit on here. So in any event, it doesn't print out wonderfully, but it does if you wish to do it. Using this feature will, believe it or not, does tone down a lot of the other noise if you just try and use any other print feature like through your browser or whatever. So I do recommend using that. Maybe one day I'll get around to actually cleaning that up a little bit more. But you'll see a lot of the data here, as I had promised, is editable, like a typical form field. You just fill it in, change the value. So if you wanted to upgrade your hit points to 52, anything you do edit in a field here, these little white boxes, you need to click update for them to apply. So remember that. But otherwise, a lot of them, most of them, you don't have to touch. That's the beauty of Toolkit. It does it all for you, but they are editable if you wish. So these are your abilities, and for each ability, you get these little bullet lists that tell you the penalties and bonuses, the adjustments due to you because of your ability value. And so like one might be, well, I was going to say the times that you're going to change your abilities, there are times for that. And that would be where you get a wish and you increase an ability, or you get cursed and you have to lower an ability permanently, or, whatever reason. So these are available that you can edit them if you wish, but usually you're not going to. One other time is those character age brackets I explained. As your character ages, their wisdom is likely going to go up as they go through those brackets. I have not yet accounted for that within Toolkit. I'm not going to get into why or whatever right now, but just haven't. So you might need to increase or decrease your abilities based upon age at some point. So they are editable. Then there's some typical race details. Not much for a human, but you can imagine like with a elven character, for instance, like Hab here is an elf. A lot more race details. So these are just things that are specific to the chosen race, in this case elf, like that 90% resistance to sleep and charm. So they enumerate them for you here for ease of use, so they're all available to you, and they're color-coded to show you if they are a bonus or a penalty to the norm. Similarly, we have class details. And for instance, this character, the calculations were done based upon abilities, and this character is entitled to the 10% XP bonus. All right, and then you'll see chronic conditions, and this is exclusive to Toolkit. There is a disease dynamic or system in first edition that I love of AD&D. Very difficult to manage, though, paper and pencil. I've never actually met, but for one, I've never met a dungeon master who uses it because it's so difficult to manage. So it's really cool in concept, but people don't use it. And the one that did say he did use it, I didn't really believe him. We were getting into a friendly but heated exchange, and I think I was using diseases, a system that dungeon masters don't use, and he was just trying to say he does everything by the book, and so he said, yeah, I use diseases too, and I just didn't believe him. He don't want to call anybody a liar. Don't like to think if anybody is lying, but I'm going to say, let's say he was mistaken and he thought he had used it and didn't. But in any event, diseases are really cool. You've got to check for them monthly for every character, unless they're in like an area conducive to catching diseases, and then it would be weekly. And you've got to factor in things like the climate they're in and the crowding of the location. Is it a large city or a small village and so forth? So many factors and tables and calculations, and you got to do them regularly on every character. It's too much to use paper and pencil. But I love it, so I built it into Toolkit. And Toolkit behind the scenes keeps track of the climate your character is in and so forth. The DM does that for you. And it secretly and quietly behind the scenes rolls to see if you contracted a parasite or a disease of some kind. And if you have, it records it for the dungeon master to let you know you've got a disease. You're going to be bedridden for 2 or 4 weeks or what have you. If it's a chronic disease rather than acute, meaning that it's a lifetime, you've caught a disease that's going to flare up every now and then throughout your lifetime, chronic conditions are recorded here. In addition to those diseases, every time your character is knocked unconscious in combat because they reach 0 hit points, first edition says you go into a coma. And so it tracks the number of comas your character has had as well as one of your conditions. So I wanted to point that out. Armor class, you should understand that. If you don't, talk to your DM about that. Toolkit will calculate your armor class, but it does not, at least as of yet, accommodate magical items. So like a ring of protection I've not found an elegant way yet, or have not thought, I guess, long enough to come up with an elegant way of accounting for magic items like that. But otherwise, it does account for the armor you're wearing, your dexterity, a shield or not. So using those basic items that 80% of the time, or I would say, are applicable, it will calculate your AC. And if you hover over the AC here, you get a little pop-up. See that little tooltip that popped up with an 8? Or if you erase the value in there, you'll see grayed out the 8 again. It's calculated what it thinks your armor class should be. And so let's say I have it a 9 and I click update. So it allows you, of course, to override it, again, because we haven't accounted for magic items. But if you hover over that 9, it tells you, Toolkit, what it thinks it should be based upon shield usage, armor class, and dexterity. So it's thinking he should be at an 8, which is appropriate for Hab. He's a magic user, so no armor, but he does have a -2 AC adjustment because of his dex, and so he would drop from 10 to 8. And that's what it indeed should be, so we're going to change that. HP and HP max. HP max should never go down unless you get a level drain or something like that. Typically, it's going to be going up and only going up as you level. So Hab is at 14. If he was to level up to level 5, I would then roll the D4. Let's say I got a 2, so now my HP max is 16. All right, it's going to pretty much stay at 16 until I level up again. HP is your current HP, so this will go down when you're injured and raise when you're healed. All right, so this is a more permanent tracker, and this is currently, as your hit points go up and down, you track them here. And it's important to keep track of this here because there's a lot of features, or at least some features in Toolkit, that it needs to read your current health. And a quick for instance is I put a weather system into Toolkit, and you can take damage from weather if you're adhering to rules like in the Wilderness Survival Guide. If your character gets too cold, doesn't have the appropriate clothing and armor on, they're going to start freezing. And the amount of damage they take will be based either upon their personal temperature they're experiencing, how cold they are, or 10% of their current hit points, whichever is lower. So it does need an accurate reading of your current hit points, so do update them. Here it's simple enough to do. Change the number, click update, your DM will be happy. Height and weight. This is established randomly at character creation based upon your race, but they are editable should you wish to change them. If you're going to play by the book, leave them alone. Otherwise, my players, sometimes I say, you get a one-time shot at this. When you first create your character, if you're not happy with the height and weight and you want to change it, do so, but then you cannot change it at a later date. Experience should only be going up, unless, of course, the rare instance of things like level drain. But otherwise, your experience will be going up, and then your level is calculated for you. If you're multi-classed, it will divide this 50-50, or in thirds if you're triple-classed. Again, by the book. Age, as I said, this is generated randomly. When you create your character, it will then increase as your character experience, as your character is progressing through a campaign. The Dungeon Master controls time, so they will be increasing your years and days from their end. So you really should not have occasion to change this, and I recommend you don't, particularly without consulting your DM. Because again, the campaign from the Dungeon Master side will be impacting your age, and you want it to if you're playing fairly. Saving throws, you don't have to edit. They are done automatically based upon your level and your class. They are impacted. They are impacted as your level goes up. So when the HAB reaches level 5, these numbers will improve. But otherwise, you just need to read them. Weapon proficiency. The class you are dictates the number of weapons you're proficient or skilled, trained in. So for being a magic user, he's proficient in 1 until he reaches level 5. And once he does, when I put, let's just show you here, if I was to increase his XP and update it, you'll see he has 2 weapons now. Magic users go up every 5 levels an additional weapon. The penalty they receive for using a weapon they're not proficient in never changes, so that will stay -5. And then if you click on this button here, you can change the weapons they are currently proficient in. He's currently proficient in the staff and the dagger. If I click the plus sign, I can change that to include a dart. Oh, sorry, it won't work because I just realized I exceeded my weapon proficiency. I'm only level 6. I only get 2. So if I click the plus sign here, I can reset my weapon proficiency. You shouldn't be doing this unless you made a mistake. Let's say I did here. When you click reset, your proficiencies are gone. But once you choose a weapon to be proficient in, you can't train in them. You'll always remain proficient in them. So you can't play around with that system. Once you've selected one, it's got to stay that way, or at least with my players, when I'm DMing, that's how I do it. But if I wanted to select dagger here, I click dagger, click add, and then dagger is now down there as a weapon proficiency, and this is where you track them. All right, ToHit tables. These are great. This is a personalized ToHit table. So Hab can hit armor class 10 with a 9 if he goes down in levels. All right, so remember, armor class 10, he hits with a 9. If my XP goes down to 1 and I'm now level 1, I now hit armor class 10 on an 11, right? Not a 9. So these are dynamic. They change according to your class. And if you hover over here, it explains how that works. It also explains how the next lower row works. This row here. Now, this is for weapon proficiency. Weapon versus armor adjustments. Okay, I'm going to get into that in a second. What I like this for is it really speeds up. The DM doesn't have to consult the attack table. And the player, even if you on pencil and paper were to try and replicate this on your character sheet, you don't have to, readjust it every time your level changes. It does it for you. But so basically my character rolls the d20, he rolls, let's say, a 14, and so Hab would say 14, I can hit up to armor class 7. DM automatically knows if it's a hit or not because they know the armor class of the adversary. So it really speeds up our game. Every time my players roll, they tell me what AC they can hit, and I know instantly if they hit or not. This even speeds it up more. I was talking about weapon versus armor adjustment. Really cool system, but another one like diseases that can really slow down a game. So DMs generally don't use it, or they bastardize the system to make it quick and simple. Otherwise, you're referencing a lot of tables and whatnot. The reason, so that's the downside. It really slows down gameplay, more math, and so forth. But the upside is it really allows for weapon diversity. If you don't have all these other factors weighing into weapons and weapons versus armor, you're really just looking at damage and weight to dictate what weapons you're using. For the most part, there's a couple of other weapons like the spear, right? That's got the defending against charges. That gives it a lot of value. But otherwise, you're looking at damage and weight to choose a weapon. And so there's a very small list of weapons that a lot of DMs find their players are choosing from. So when you can add these other factors in, it increases weapon diversity, and I love that as a dungeon master and as a player. I like the idea of having this large assortment of weapons in Dungeons and Dragons. So how this works is your character has to equip a weapon within Toolkit, and you'll see anything highlighted in this bold white print is equipped. So Hab actually has some very cold clothing equipped. He also has his staff equipped. And you manage that with these little buttons on the end here. Green means you'll equip something. X means you'll unequip it. And so you'll see if I click this X, my staff will no longer be equipped. And it's not. So all these values drop down to 0. If I re-equip my staff, the numbers adjust again. And what this says is based upon the weapon I'm using, the staff. The 1E DMG has a table for each weapon, the pluses and minuses they get to hit when fighting certain armor classes. Now this only applies to humanoids wearing actual armor, so a dragon has a very low armor class, but it's not due to the armor type, it's due to their size, their agility, the thickness of their hide, which is kind of simulating armor. But so this adjustment row does not apply to those monsters. Only humanoids wearing actual armor, chainmail, plate mail, so forth. But when you're in those fights, the type of weapon you're using will give you penalties or bonuses to your to-hit rolls. Really, these numbers should be applied to the enemy armor class. Much of the time, that would be synonymous, but at the extreme rolls, 20 or 1, that can change. So the DMG says applies them to the armor class of the adversary, the target. But in any event, easy to use this system where you can say, hey, with a 13, I can hit armor class 8. But with my bashing weapon versus armor adjustment, I can actually hit a 7. So it makes it real easy to use that system when it's all tailored to the exact character digitally like it is in Toolkit. And it allows for that diversity. Right, you're going to have different pluses and minuses here. Oh, and of course, Hab doesn't have a dagger on him, or I'm going to equip one quickly. And this is how you manage your items. You add them, go to weapons, I'm going to find a dagger, I'm going to check it off, I'm going to keep it at 1, I don't want to add 3 daggers. Just going to add 1, I'm going to click his name, go back to his character sheet. So Hab now has these pluses and minuses using a staff, which is a bashing type weapon. A dagger is piercing type. If I click that, you'll see these numbers change. These roll -7s, now they're -3. Daggers or piercing weapons do much better damage versus those lower armor class armors like plate mail and so forth, splinted mail. So those numbers change dynamically based upon the weapon equipped. And again, great feature. I love this for the sake of weapon diversity. So a big plug here for using AD&D Toolkit. This is one of those places where it really does change your game. It allows you to use systems that Gygax and the original creators intended, but we often don't because they're so cumbersome. Languages. You adjust them here. Just check off what you're learning. Where Toolkit is requiring that your DM and you, the player, determine what language you can and can't learn. You just check them off, click add. If you make a mistake, you can reset them. But otherwise, the only limit that will be imposed, I believe, and now I'm sorry, I'm forgetting if I did program this in or not. I meant to at some point, and I'm pretty sure I did. But the number of languages you can learn are based upon your race. You get starting languages based on your race. And then your intelligence can give you bonus languages. You'll see he gets 7. And I think I limited the number. It calculates the number of languages you can learn. And if you try and exceed them, I think Toolkit will tell you that. All right, spells. In this part of the character sheet, this can change from one class to the next. You'll see mage spells per level here for Hab. He's a magic user. But for instance, if I go to a thief like Sticky Fingers, now it's showing thieving skills. And so on. You're going to get different information in this middle section of the third column here based upon the character you're using. So I guess quickly while I have my thief up here, it shows you your percentage chances of success for each of these thieving skills. And these numbers do account for, it tells you dexterity and race. So for instance, like halflings get a bonus for hiding in shadows. And so that is factored in already. Your dexterity bonuses or penalties are also factored in here, so you don't have to. So these numbers, you should be able to take them at face value and not have to make any adjustments. I can't off the top of my head think of anything besides race and dex that impacts thieving skills. But if you need to, you can, but otherwise those are the two factors that are incorporated into these numbers. And then so they're available to, level, of course, right? And as this character levels up, these numbers will adjust. So again, having these dynamic tables are awesome. But I do want to go back now to a spellcaster because they are a little more involved than just the thieving skills, which auto-calculate they're done, right? Mage spells. First level mage, so I get 1 level 1 spell per day, and as the levels go up, these numbers will go up as well. The spellbook and the memorize buttons are what I want you to see here. Spellbook. Toolkit will track your spellbook over the lifetime of the character, which is awesome. And a lot of these things are out of sync because these are all testing characters for me. Meaning, Hab is level 1, he shouldn't have level 2 and 3 spells, right, and all that, but I use him for other videos. So you would only see 1 level, well no, I'm mistaken there, sorry. This is the spellbook, so you could see more spells here. These are spells that are in your spellbook. This is the entirety of the list of available spells to a mage or magic user. And then these are failed spells. And if you go back to the character sheet, I'm not going to go through this system now. You should know this. I did do a video on it. But mages or magic users don't start knowing every spell available to them. They can only start with 3 or 4. And then they have to acquire spells over their lifetime, finding scrolls and other spell books and sharing with other player characters and so forth. But there are limits to how many spells they can learn, if they can learn a spell or not. That's dictated by their intelligence, so you'll find those features here. That being said, you need to record over a lifetime what spells you found and successfully transcribed to your spellbook, and they're listed here. Okay. If you make a mistake, if you tried to learn strength and you failed, and you accidentally, well, let's pick one that we haven't learned yet. Let's say we find an enlarged scroll. You roll the percentage dice based upon your intelligence, you fail to learn it. But you accidentally click the green button, which then adds it to your spellbook, and that was a mistake. You can click the red X to get rid of it, it repopulates here in the spell list. Now we're going to click the red X to say you failed. That's what our key shows you. I failed to learn enlarge, so it now populates down here in the failed spell list. And you'll see it is gone from the available spells now. It's no longer here. Any single spell can only exist in your spell book or your spell list or your failed spell list. Only one, right? And that makes sense because it's got to be in one of those three states. And again, you can delete this if you made a mistake. But otherwise, once you failed to learn a spell, that's permanent. You cannot try to learn that spell again. So you need to track the spells that you fail. Those are here. The spells that you learn and put in your spellbook are here, and the ones still available to you are here. And of course, you could do this with paper and pencil, but it's a lot easier to do it, and you won't lose it if you keep it here in Toolkit. My players love it, so it's here. In addition, you'll see these little red scrolls, and if you hover over them, ta-da! Awesome feature. It gives you all of the parameters and the values you need to know from the player handbook about each spell. The range on them, the duration, area of effect, and so on. Even cooler, a lot of these spell parameters scale with level. So for instance, let's find a good one like Magic Missile. Well, in any event, doesn't matter. What I was going to say is a lot of these parameters scale with level. So the range might be a base range of, let's say, 5 inches, and then it goes up half an inch with each level. That adjustment, the 0.5 inches with each level, is calculated and displayed on this pop-up for you based upon your character's level, so you don't have to keep track of which parameters do scale, which ones don't, and then do the math of what that becomes and so forth. It's all done for you. Very simple, easy to reference. And always here at your fingertips. You don't have to be paging through the player's handbook every time. The one parameter that is not in the Toolkit database is that bottom one you see as notes. By default, it just says NA, not available. But then you, the player, can edit it to be whatever you want it to be by clicking on the actual link of the spell. So if you erase. So it tells me the spell name, which I cannot edit, but I can change it from MA to... God, typing's horrible. Erase the shit. Click submit. And now when I hover over, there it is in the notes area, erase shit. And once you put a value in there for notes on a spell, it's part of your account. So it's not specific to any character. All of your characters will have the same information available to you because this is not for the character. This is for you, the player, right? So we want it to be a library that's accessible across all of your characters, and it will be on AD&D Toolkit. So I really love that feature. Speeds things up. You want to know about a spell, just hover over the scroll. You don't have to go flipping through the player's handbook anymore. All right, so that done, memorize. This just memorizes the spells you have prepared for the day. It again tells you how many, just for quick reference, that you can prepare, and then works similarly to the spell book. When you want to prepare a spell for the day, so you slept overnight, in the morning you want to memorize Affect Normal Fires, click that green button, and boom, it pops up into your prepared spells. When you cast the spell during the day, click the X, and it's gone. And of course, if you want to have 2 light spells, you can do that. They will duplicate. So that's basically it for this. It's just tracking the spells you've prepared and cast. Makes it simple. You don't have to keep writing them down, crossing them out. You can do it right here in Toolkit if you wish. All right, clerics, illusionists, and so forth can do similarly. So now we're on to managing your inventory. And this was actually the reason I originally created Toolkit. I've been running a family campaign for about 3 years now, and we really we like management resource, and a lot of people who play first edition do. And a big part of that we felt was encumbrance, or almost similarly weight. We wanted to keep track of encumbrance by the book. Every item we pick up or drop changes your encumbrance, and based upon your encumbrance, that should change your movement speed. It is like near impossible to do pencil and paper to do it by the book because you, again, have to know the encumbrance value of every item. And encumbrance is not strictly weight. It also factors in bulkiness of items. So it's not a true weight value. For instance, what would be a good one? A book. Well, no, not a book. Something big and bulky. Do I have anything here? Armor is the obvious one, and I don't have armor on my magic user, of course. But maybe a robe. Oh, he's carrying leather armor. Okay. So leather armor might not weigh 15 pounds per se, but because it's big and bulky, it has a higher encumbrance factor than its true weight. So that's what encumbrance is in first edition D&D. And we wanted, like I said, to calculate that and account for it. And encumbrance, the limits can change based upon strength, so that can be going up and down. So there's a lot of factoring to do every time you're dropping or picking up items. So I built Toolkit just to do that for my family game. And then we started adding all these other features, and they became so cool, I opened this up to the public. But this is a great feature, and I really think, well, I proved the point I'm about to make. Toolkit is worthwhile just for the inventory management alone. Everything else is cream on top. But I made Toolkit just for inventory management. So that alone is reason enough to use it if you like resource management and working with weights and how that affects your movement and so forth. And so to manage your items, there are some items within Toolkit that are considered stackable. And those are usually smaller items like arrows or rations. And so I have these little plus and minus buttons. You'll see this character is carrying 1 iron ration, and if I click the plus sign, he now has 2. So for items that you might be using frequently, arrows and rations, I made them stackable, and you have these little buttons to very quickly just edit the amount of them. Also, I pointed out earlier these little plus and X's to equip items. So items that are equipable. Right, a belt isn't, well, I guess you could argue that it is. You could wear it or not wear it, but it doesn't have any relevance to the game. Or at least it doesn't need to be, it's not relevant to Toolkit. So we don't equip it per se in Toolkit. But the type of weapon you're using, right? We talked about how that is factored into Toolkit. So we want to be able to equip that. Armor, similarly too, will impact your armor class. So any item that Toolkit has equipable relevance has these little buttons here at the end. Only on your character sheet. The DM does not have access to that. But otherwise, if you need to manage your items, you're going to click Manage here. And you'll see on the front page, your character sheet, you have backpack items listed here. That's things that your character is carrying. The mount would be your cart, or maybe a horse you're riding. And then you have permanent storage, which would be your home or a bank vault, something like that. Maybe a little chest that you've buried somewhere. You don't have items visible here for what you have in semi-permanent storage. So to see all of these items, you need to click the Manage button, and then any items in permanent storage are available to you. Actually, any items in any inventory anywhere are available to the character here from this Manage Inventory screen. And you can move them between these 3 areas. There's soon to be a 4th. There's going to be the communal party cart. Like if your party has rented, say, a cart and a draft mule. That's what this is going to be. And then I'm going to have a 4th storage section soon for a personal mount you might be riding. So you can divide items up in between the 2. It's just going to make things better. A better player experience. But if you want to move them around, for instance, these items in the cart here, let's say I want to put the sleeping bag in my storage, on my backpack, and I want to get rid of this leather armor, move it to my house. I went home and I want to move these things around. So just check them. You can actually move some of these around too. I'm going to put this gemstone into my backpack also. I'm going to click move, and all 3 of those items will just shuffle around. Well, one of these 3 is that gem I just moved. The gem is no longer in my permanent storage, and you'll see things just moved around. So real quick and easy to shuffle things around between your storage. You can also delete items by clicking the delete button. All right, now more importantly is you can edit them. So this key is relevant to the Dungeon Master. This character is my character. It's also in my campaign because I use it for testing. So, as the character, from the character view, you would not see this color coding. What you will see is the one you'll see is this turquoise or a light teal color. And that's that indicates a magic item. There's also this dark teal color. Okay? And let's say this grouping of arrows here, I'm the Dungeon Master. I'm going to go in and edit them. And I, as the Dungeon Master, know they are +1 arrows. So the DM details becomes +1. There's 2 of them. I can change that amount if I need to. There's a few other fields you can fill in here if you want. But the one of relevance is these 2. Item is magical. That got checked because I chose a +1 arrow. Do I want to reveal the magical quality of this item to the player or not? So let's say the player have just found these arrows. And I, the DM, know they're magical. He, the player, does not. So I'm going to leave that unchecked. I'm going to click submit. And then you'll see the arrow is now that dark teal. Only the DM will see it as a dark teal color. The player is going to see it in black. So really cool feature. That's what these edit details are for. From the player point of view, what you're going to see is player details. You can change things like, hey, I found these. You can put whatever you want here. You can write like I found encrypt. And that, some of my players do that because they want to remember I found these arrows. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I just changed when I wasn't looking at. Which one did I change? Yeah, not sure. But in any event, my players might do that because they want to remember they found those arrows in a particular area, and that's an indicator to them that they haven't checked to see if they're magical yet or not. That could happen. So you can do that. Or if you have a weapon that you want to rename, I've had players do that. They want to change the details and have a personalized name like Dude's Sword or whatever they want to name it. You can do that. Or if you, for whatever reason, if you discover your weapon's magical and you, the player, want to edit that, you can do so. All right, so I'm going to go up here now to adding items. Items are categorized, 4 different categories. Armor, weapon, and standard are in the player's handbook and also in the DMG. Custom items are items that you might find in a supplement or something like that, or I made them up and included them in this custom items list. But otherwise, your items are listed here. They should be familiar to you. If this character found a suit of chainmail, I would check it. If this character, going down to weapons, found 3 daggers, I could check dagger and change this to 3. And you can check off as many items from as many categories as you wish. And when you have them all selected, just scroll down, click the add button, and they will drop into your inventory. That is all you really need to know about this screen. And you'll see the items get added to your backpack. All right, so that's how you add items to populate here. And that could be for whatever reason. You found, whatever, you buy them, you find them. If I have an item in my backpack that I want to give to another player in my campaign, that's what this give items feature is for. And it's important that you give items. Some players, if I don't think to inform them, if this guy's got 2 rations, he'll say to another player, I'm just going to delete these, and you just add 2 iron rations to your inventory. And if I'm not listening, they'll do that, and that's a mistake, particularly when it comes to items like weapons and armor and gemstones and so forth. Because the DM on their side of things can add values. Like I, as the DM, so again, I said only this teal color is visible to players, right? The other 2, valued in magical are, I'm sorry, only this one is available to players. These two are for DMs. And so like gemstones, I as the DM will assign a value to the gemstone. This is an objective value of 150 gold pieces. And then the true value depends on how much is somebody willing to pay for it, like a shopkeep or something. And so the shopkeeper might only offer, say, 135 gold for this gem, but I need a base value, a book value, to base the percentage that the shopkeeper's willing to offer. So the DM sees this. The player's only going to see 1 gold piece, which is standard for any gemstone. But because this value is applied to this item, if I want to trade this item to somebody, I don't want to lose that value the DM plugged in, so I'm going to give it to them. So let's say I'm going to give this to War Baron, right? Hab is going to give this item. So I select War Baron, and you'll see only players that are available in this dropdown are the ones who are active in my campaign. So I'm going to select War Baron. I'm going to select this gemstone. And I'm going to select Give. And if I go back to War Baron, you'll see in his backpack, he actually has that 150 gold piece gemstone now. And so that's the key of using that give feature. These values are retained with the item. So don't one character delete, the other character add. Give items when you need to give them. And that's how you do it. And then equipping items. As I showed you on the character sheet, there's those little green pluses and the red X's if you want to equip or unequip an individual item, or if you want to manage them all at once, you can do it here. Click equip, and then those items will equip. I just equipped the moderate clothing because I'm in cold weather for this character. All right, so I believe that is all we need to do for inventory management, other than coins. These are coins you have on your person, coins on the mount, and coins in your semi-permanent storage. These coins will factor into your character's encumbrance. These coins will not. So important to shuffle these around to maintain low encumbrance so that you can move quickly. But of course, unless you're at that bank that's holding your gold coins, you as the player don't want to be shuffling these to your backpack. You got to be at the bank to do it, right? Have access to it. Otherwise, you just change the value, click update, and you've now got 12 silver pieces on your character. Let's say I change this to 400 silver pieces. Click update. My encumbrance just changed, as did my movement. So I'm going to erase these so you can see it, go back in case you missed it. My encumbrance is 108 of my possible 205 for this character, and it's yellow because it's moderately encumbered. And my movement rate is 90. 9 inches or 90 feet or yards. If I take those coins away again, you'll see those numbers change. Right now I'm green. I'm moving at my fastest, a good clip here, 120 or 12 inches. And my encumbrance has dropped. So that was my initial reason for creating Toolkit. If I add or remove any of these items, that will also impact encumbrance and movement. So I love that aspect of Toolkit, that we can actually play with weight being a serious factor. And so if you're a fighter, and some fighters might want to go defensively. They're going to stress dexterity and constitution, and their strength might just be mediocre. And so they can't carry a whole lot of equipment. If you're not accounting for weight, they're maybe going to pop in that two-handed sword, which does massive damage, but it's also massively heavy. It's like 25 encumbrance, I think. And plate mail, right? They're going to just load stuff on and all the loot they find. But if you're playing by the book, plate mail and that two-handed sword alone are going to take up so much of your available encumbrance allowance. If you're mediocre strength, you're not going to have much room for much of anything else. All the equipment that a fighter would need, much less the loot you want to carry. That same fighter might have occasion where they want to have a backup, say a short sword and a shield that they're going to use in close quarters where they can't, like in a narrow hallway where they can't use that two-handed sword. And that's a great strategy. But if your strength isn't that strong, that high, you're not that strong, you're going to have a tough time wearing plate mail, carrying a two-handed sword and a short sword and shield and rations and water and all your loot. It's not going to happen. So you really got to think about it, and you're probably going to adjust your weapons and armor. And that is another value given to different types of weapons and armor. Weapon and armor diversity, right? We talked about that up here. Suddenly, splint mail becomes more valuable than plate, or I shouldn't say more valuable than plate, but in the sense of its encumbrance being lower gives it more value in that factor, that regard. Plate mail has more value in that it gives you a better armor class, but there's options, and based upon your experience, the context you're going to be adventuring in, you might change up your armor or your weapon if you have different factors like encumbrance, true encumbrance to consider. So I love that about Toolkit, and I push it every time I talk to somebody about it. All right, these we talked about, they're just cool feature. If you like the visual, you can choose that if you're a supporter. Some campaign information. What's really important down here is the current day of the campaign. So these guys are in, it's got to be my second year, right? So they've played for a couple of years. And then just some information relevant to the campaign. These are images. The DM can share images they can add to this list or take away in a moment, and they usually will tell you when they do. And they'll say, take a look at image number 167. You click view, and they'll say, that's what you're looking at right now. Or I do this with monsters 2. Do I have any monsters yet here? Well, not monsters, but animals, right? Opponents, potential adversaries. I tell my characters, you come across a couple of animals in the wild. If you click on image 166, you'll see what they are, and they're mountain lions. So this is a really cool feature. DMs can manage a huge library of images. Well, a select number of images that they can choose from. If they're supporters, they can get a huge number of images in there. These are the party members that I'm adventuring with, and you'll see them all listed here. This is, again, that level of support they apply to Toolkit. Mine doesn't, he's not a supporter, so if you click on his character, you just get that not a valid character message. But if you click on Al-Anon, who is a supporter, you can see his profile, the public profile. Well, I'm also the owner of this character, so I am privy to his private notes. But no one else would see that. And then lastly, we have a calendar down here, and this is great for keeping track of items within your campaign, like rentals. I have as an example here. Let's say at the inn, I have a room rental there. And this auto-populates to the current campaign day. You can edit it if you need to, but usually it would be the current campaign day. Let's say on this day, I'm going to rent a room. I'm going to rent it for a week. So the ending day would be 7/72. I click update. And now I have a new calendar event. See, there's that room rental. And what will happen is once the campaign reaches 7/72 or exceeds the ending day of 7/72, this will turn red to indicate I'm beyond the end day. And that's what happened with this horse rental. This horse rental was due on campaign day 8. We're at 7/65. This horse was due back on the 8th campaign day. So it's just a little feature, but it's helpful keeping track of events like that. And like somebody gets sick. DM tells them they're going to be sick for 2 weeks. You write, I'm sick. You put 2 weeks into the current day here, and you'll know when your character's able to get out of bed. So there's all kinds of reasons to keep these dates on a little personal calendar. Digitalizing them is awesome. It keeps track of it for you and gives you this little indicator when they're overdue. So I believe that is it. I'm sure there's more that there are some other details we could teach you about using Toolkit as a player, but I wanted to get through the crux of it, and I believe we have a couple other things I'm just seeing I guess I could show you. As I said, anything that's equipped highlights in this bold white print. There's a few items that have other details that is tracked by Toolkit. They're optional. You don't need to use them. One is the clothing I talked about. There is weather built into daily weather, randomized weather, that the DM will inform you each day. It's sunny, it's 22 degrees, it's 40 degrees, whatever. When you get down into the cold temperatures, if you wish to play, like the Wilderness Survival Guide supplement says that you should, and I love that idea. Very, very difficult, I find it, to use the Wilderness Survival Guide when it comes to temperature using paper and pencil, but automating it within Toolkit, it's a breeze. Everything is basically automated for the DM. They just get a printout of what the weather is, so they don't have to do anything except read it, which takes a moment. And all the players need to do is keep track of what they're wearing as far as armor and clothing. And then that will tell the DM, because the DM side of thing reads the clothing and armor each character is wearing and tells them if somebody is freezing or not. Again, they're just reading that weather report, and it'll say, Hab is freezing. So some of the features that are optional are like the temperature value of clothing or armor. Actually, armor I don't have it in here for, but I will be shortly. In the next update, it's going to list the temperature value of armor. And it's here for you to read, but you don't need to use this system or not. It's up to you if you want to use the built-in Wilderness Survival Guide temperature system. Another system that is optional is days of freshness of food. A lot of DMs don't keep track of that because, again, it's just a nuisance and time sink. But if it's done automatically for you, why not? Right? Standard rations, fresh foods should stay fresh for about 3 days. And so when you first purchase fresh or standard rations, this number will be 3. As the campaign days advance, not only will your character age, well, here, but things like your food freshness will decrease. They'll advance. And when they're red, they're spoiled. Iron rations will start at 30 days. But you don't have to follow this, right? The rations don't delete from your inventory. They're there if you don't want to follow it. I can't think why you wouldn't want to. I like the idea of, being a little more realistic. Food is fresh or not. It's there if you want to use it. And another item or feature is some items I gave uses to. And one of those items would be, just show you real quick as a for instance. Actually, I'm going to switch characters, go to my Thief Sticky Fingers. And he probably has this item here already. At least I hope he does. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Thieving Tools. Use is 85. I give thief tools, lockpicks and so forth, 100 uses at purchase. And then every time a thief attempts to pick a lock, the Dungeon Master actually has a module or a tool that does all the calculations for him or her. So when you click that module, it goes to the character that's attempting the lockpick and reduces the use of their tools by 1. When uses get down to 10 or less, there becomes an increasing chance that those tools will break, and when they get down to 0, they break. I like that. It's just giving a little bit of recyclability to thief tools, that you're not just buying it when you first create a character and then you have them for lifetime. I like them being able to be broken and have to be replaced, but it's optional. You can ignore the uses here. The thief tools will still be in your backpack. It's up to you if you want to use features like that. There are going to be other items in Toolkit that will have uses applied to them. I think there is one other already. It's just not coming to me. But in any event, if you see uses, that's what that pertains to. So I hope this was helpful. I hope I didn't ramble on too much, because I do tend to ramble on. And I hope it was enjoyable, and that we'll see you at the next AD&D Toolkit video. Until then, be well and continue enjoying playing your favorite game. Bye-bye.